Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. StratGamer here, providing you with new Anno 1800 content today. Today we are doing a video on CrownFalls at the request of a few of you. But let me be clear before we go into any details. I am not saying this is the perfect layout. I'm not suggesting you need to do it exactly. In fact, in this video we're going to cover the first sort of part, everything that went into building this layout, the thinking, why it has some advantages and what I like about it. But then we will also cover in the second part what I don't like about it, why I wouldn't suggest to do it maybe now, etc. So do stay tuned for the second part of the video too. Okay, let's dive in. So maybe just as a very quick introduction, this layout gets me around 200,000 investors and just a few engineers that are needed for my for a few production and also for the Scholar Institute. And if we look, you're going to see sort of like this very structured block layout. With this is the layout that is repeated multiple times. Of course, at some elements you need to adapt it, but that's the key elements. And basically the key thinking is around the train station or the train structure to go to the oil power plants. So you can see I've put it on this side of the island, not on that side, on this side here towards the end, because that way it does cut across easily, and then you can go down and you can see all of my trains going. So there's, with this layout, a lot of trains that are at the same time going out and coming back, because I have from the start branching out a lot. So it is key if you use trains in CrownFall to indeed have a lot of those branches, a lot of those parallel tracks. Otherwise, you won't have oil to the end of your island for sure. Then the second is then branches, right? So it's not just one circle or something like this, but it's you have the track here and then branches going out in different directions. And on those branches, this is where you actually do have, let's say, a circle or a way for trains to also be on parallel tracks and to come back. With those, they're never stuck, for example, here, because there's another train that's there and blocking the way. So that's the first element around the train station. As you can see, it goes all the way to the end, and again tracks. And the second element is about this layout here. So the idea is to be first squares, because for your house that's sort of the easiest to put as many houses as possible, and then to repeat the same layout where you have, so let me just go in there, you have the member club, then fire station with town hall, then hospital, and then just repeat and repeat, because this is sort of what you need for to have most of their needs, not all, but most. You also put a bank here and there, but very few. See, one there, because you don't need that many. And then you just repeat it. And similarly for the oil power plants, it's sort of this layout of repeating it less often And I'll post in the description below what was my inspiration for this. You'll see pictures of somebody else's island that looks very similar. And basically when I started it, I just looked at where this coverage was stopping, and it was around, it was stopping around there. So that means you don't need to put it exactly here, because then you will have coverage going that way and that way. So you put it a bit more there so that it covers there plus there. And similarly, this was covering, sort of good here, so you didn't need to put this new one exactly here. It was better to just put it there, but then to put the third one like there. So you can see this 5 here. And then for the town halls, there's no perfect way to do it, or at least I don't know a perfect way to do it, but the way I do it is I sort of start in one. You start somewhere, right? So for example, you start in that corner and you say, okay, here's the best place, and then you start putting the ones next to it so that they touch exactly, but without being blocked, right? And then you continue there, and similarly there, now. And after you've done that, usually you start putting your roads, and after you've put your roads, you may move them just a bit, so that because maybe one of them was blocking a road or something like this. So that's how you start covering your whole island with town halls, because that's your goal. And for example, here there was just I didn't want to mess my palace. You could if you really want to do sort of min-max, but at that point my palace was there. I didn't want to move it. Then a couple of other elements I wanted to say. So the palace, I put it there because when you start the so you see the green elements now goes quite far because my palace is big, right? 898 wings. At the beginning it's not that big, and based on how big it is, this is the range that gives you how much your policies and elements will affect the island. So you want to put it sort of in the middle, not when you're really starting. You may want to put it exactly here, right, and start building around it, but very quickly you'll see that you will cover all this part, but then if you put it there, it's going to be hard to cover all the way there, and even harder to cover all the way over there, right? So that's why after it you probably want to move it here, where you can easily reach that way, and also all the way that side, right? Over here and over there. Now about your let's say attractiveness, I would suggest that you look at my video on the 33k attractiveness, on why and how to reach it. But there is a point around your museums, right? So for me, there's two elements about museums, botanical garden and zoos. Is usually the best is just to cram small ones in corners where you won't really be able to do much else. So for example, here I think I have another one there. It's corners that aren't really used easily for other things. But the other element is you may want to just have, again, it's probably better in a corner. So for example, here or there, completely on that side here, because again it's hard to reach for all your bonuses, for your electricity and things like this. It's always better to put it in a corner than just plain in the middle. But you may want to have a big block like this one. Like, I'm not saying this one is optimized at all, but sort of that provides everything you need, and also that has like a lot of different exhibits for just one museum, because the museum takes space but doesn't give you anything, right? It's only the exhibits that are providing you the bonuses. So if you want to maximize, let's say, the output, right, or be a min-maxer, you want to have as little of these museum as possible, but as much as exhibit as possible per each of these. So here, if you haven't watched my 33k video, the reason I have 3 of them is because I'm providing 3 times the same elements, all of these ones at the top, because these are the ones that provide the best buck for best, because these are the ones that provide the most efficient attractiveness. Okay, so here is sort of for the first part of this video. Now, let me tell you why this has a lot of limitation. So, first of all, this layout. So this layout works when you don't have palace policies, meaning, you know, this member club is good to cover this size, but when you have palace policies, and in particular when you reach the level 25 like I am right now, well, you can actually delete this one, and you see I've already deleted those 2, and you will still see a perfect coverage of my member club all across. Why? If you don't know the palace policies, I'm talking about this one. Plus 60 area of influence for all public buildings. So instead of just having an area of influence, let's say of 25, for example, now it is 85. So you understand that you need a lot less of these, and that's true for many of the elements. So the bank, the member club, but also the oil power plant. So again, that's another problem with this layout, is at the beginning I needed all of these power plants, oil power plants, but now I actually don't need most of them because their area of coverage is way bigger than when I first started. So basically losing a lot of space for nothing, or we need to redo completely the layout. The third one is the hospital. Well, the truth is the hospital are just not needed at all, because with very quick to marshland in your botanical garden, you decrease the risk of illness to 0%. So marshland garden, chance of illness minus 50%. When you have 2, you can see there's no chance at all of, like, I can delete it, and you will still see no chance of being ill. So again, one more thing that was in the layout that's not needed at all. Another reason that's quite important is, you see I have a lot of tracks. So this is working, right? All my trains are doing their job, but at the same time, it takes a lot of space, and space is, you know, the ultimate limit that you want to optimize for. So CrownFall is actually the perfect place to not use any oil power plants, but to use your gas power plants instead, these ones here, because then you won't need any of these railways, and you won't have problems really reaching out the corners of the map and things like this. Another problem with this layout. Then let's move to the palace for, and in my opinion, an even bigger one. Even bigger one is that if you put your palace in CrownFall, you're gonna get all of these bonuses. And in particular, you're getting this one, which is the island workforce per tunnel. So if you see here, I mean, I don't have any farmers, don't have any workers, etc. Right? I showed you that at the beginning of the video. But despite that, I still have tons of workforce that basically now is useless, right? You could say, well, you can have piers and move them to other islands and things like this. I say okay, but it's still not being used here, whereas I could be using them directly here. And then related to what I just said here, which is that I could be using them here, is your capital, where you have your palace, is the only island where you can have the bonus of all of them, of all of the departments at once, because on all the other islands you will need to choose one specific department. Why is that important? Because it is the only island, for example, where you will have the workforce, but at the same time also the Department of Labor, with your productivity bonus and potentially your policy like this one, which means the CrownFalls, or your capital, is actually the best island where you could be doing heavy industries, or most industries. And I'll create very shortly another video that really goes into details into that, why you see more and more players completely changing their CrownFall from a population capital to a production capital. And this is mainly because of this one reason of, with the palace you'll get all of these bonuses on this island. There are also other very big and important reasons I'll go into in that video, but just wanted to introduce it here. So in a nutshell, that's what my capital is today, and you can see it's providing me quite a lot of population investors, and it's quite simple in terms of layout. You just do it once and copy. It works sort of very well in providing 100% of everything to everybody in a sense, but it's also very inefficient. It's not optimized at all, as I've shown you. So again, I'm not saying that you need to use this version. I hope this video was useful. Don't hesitate if you have any questions, and hope to see you in that next video that I just mentioned around why CrownFall may be the best island for your production instead of our population.